Hello everybody, I'm back. Alright, so welcome to episode 2, which is called Flepians. Okay, you probably saw in the introduction when it comes on that there are guys in there. I don't know if y'all noticed that, but y'all know that this is one of those things where there's an outer space sort of 4B movement going on with women, but they go to Flep and watch what they find on Planet Flep, which is out in their solar system where the planet Krill is. Okay, so enjoy, and I'll see y'all in episode 3. Introduction to the planet Krill, where women work, where women rest, where girls learn, where there are no men from Earth who will survive, where battles are fought, the planet Krill. Scene 1. Jury selection is scheduled for April 13th for the trial of Danielle Reed for endangerment, neglect, and treason, which led to the capture of Planette on Earth on April 1st. 13 jurors will be selected. If she is found guilty, she will be deported from Krill and sent back to Earth. Miss Reed claims she was forced into it, but the jury will decide. The reporter spoke into the television. More than half of Krill was listening to what was going on. This is Isabella Horton reporting live from KRT 31 News, West Coast. Ruby and Dr. Fatima watched the television in Fatima's living room. You know, Ruby, if this trial goes down in the West, she'll get off. She's got lots of friends there. Well, Doc, where else could it happen? Maybe up north? Then she would claim that she can't get a fair trial because Planette lives up there. Yeah, that's true. Maybe jury members should be selected from all points of Krill. That's a good idea, but we'll allow the lawmakers to decide. That's what they are for. Ruby was never one to interfere with delegation of responsibilities, and she was not a micromanager. She allowed those who were heads of state and other operations to do their jobs. Well, the jury will either be close or she'll get off. Dr. Fatima was still reeling from Danielle's actions. What she did was nasty work. I hear you, Doc, but have just a little bit more faith in our system than that. Scene 2. Both teachers, Garra Hunter and Camille Hunter, boarded their ship with several students. Planette decided to take the trip with them. They wondered why she would embark on a trip like this, but they would not find out until they arrived. The spacecraft sailed smoothly through the solar system as the passengers enjoyed the view. Once they arrived, they landed smoothly. The teachers did not know there was this much light on Planet Flep, and Diet had been giving them directions as to which side of the planet to land on. They disembarked from the spaceship, and Andy had explained why there was so much light on Planet Flep. That is because we are on the west side of Flep. 80% is daylight and 20% is dark. Oh, I see, Camille said. One of the defenders and the pilot and a physician stayed on board while the others made a trek. The place was sandy and sunny, and a small body of water paralleled their path. And Diet seemed unusually excited as she led the way. You've been here before, Andiet? One of the children asked. Yes, but I have not for many years. One of the defenders walked side by side with Andiet. All of a sudden, 4 men appeared before them. They stood 10 yards away, just watching them. Andiet suddenly called out, "Okie! Okie! Okie!" She kept calling and she hurried towards the men. One of the men lifted her, spun her around. She seemed very excited, and the others in the group looked at each other perplexed. Okie spun Andiet round and round as they embraced. Was that her boyfriend or something? Camille asked her sister Garra. They also noticed the other 3 guys were standing there, not saying a word.
Andiet, oh, we thought you were gone like the others.
No, they took me to Dark Planet, Okie. Camille cleared her throat. All of the men were olive complexion with dark, thick hair and handsome features. Strangely enough, though, they all looked alike, only with slight differences. Okie was the tallest, standing 6'5", so he looked like a giant over Andiet, who stood only about 4'5".
We visited Creole 70 years ago, and everyone was gone. I'm so happy you survived,
Okie said. Okie, these are my friends. Andiet introduced everyone in her group to the Flepians.
And ladies, these are my fellow Flepians. This is Yukai, Eke, and Yoku.
The men said to the ladies that it was nice meeting you, and the women returned the gesture. Camille was the first to extend her hand. Yukai had a large, strong hand.
Come, Andiet, and let me show you what we have accomplished since we last saw you. We have done many, many things since you have been here.
Okie offered as he led the women. Homes had been built. They also had built schools, labs, and they had a couple of spacecrafts. So, do you ever leave Flep? Camille asked. Instead of Okie answering that question, Yukai turned around and said,
For what purpose? Nothing was left on Creole when we were lost there.
Oh, I see. Do you have hospitals?
Ma'am, what is a hospital?
For, like, sick people.
Are you speaking of poor health?
Yes, it would be for people with poor health.
We don't have poor health.
It was not long before the group learned that the Flepians had lived for hundreds of years, and there was no one on their planet that would be considered female, and that they were the brothers of the Crelian females. Every so many years, the two would visit each other's planets. Oki held Andiet's hand as they made their trek through the town where the other men lived. They must be a couple or something, Garra. No wonder she was so anxious to come up to Flep. Camille whispered to her sister. Be careful, Camille. You know she can hear you, right? Soon, they were in Oki's large home where he invited them to have a meal with him. His entire home was made of glass, and when they ate, they sat on the floor on pillows with large round tables in the middle. He prepared for them a type of stew that he called pomo, with another orange vegetable that tasted sweet.
How long would you like to stay, ladies?
Oki asked. That would depend on the decision of the teachers. Oh, we can stay overnight. We would just have to let those on the spaceship know that what our plans are. Camille hurried in to say she was willing to stay overnight. Scene 3. What exactly are you telling me, Garra? Ruby asked once Garra explained to her that they had found men on Planet Flep. When they exiled Cynthia and Travis to Flep, there was no one in sight. They thought they would be there alone. Now it was clear to Ruby how they were able to make it back to Crail. Had those men enabled them in some way? And watch this, Miss Ruby. They are very nice. Garra, no man is... Miss Ruby, if I may, these are different types of men. They think differently. They speak differently. They have always been close friends with Crelian females, according to Andiet, and I know you trust her word on this. Well, okay. It really would be nice if we extended an invitation to them to visit us. They are so hospitable. She looked over at her sister, sitting near a campfire, sharing sprouted bread with Yukai. All right, then. Carry on. We will have a board meeting about it. In the meantime, be safe and have a wonderful time. After all, you still have defenders with you if something gets a little funky. Okay, Miss Ruby. Ruby never thought that in a million years she would give the slightest consideration to allowing men to visit their planet. However, these were not men from Earth. They were from an entirely different solar system with an entirely different way of thinking and functioning, and possibly an entirely different type of physical makeup. Scene 4. Yukai and Camille sat near the small pond. A campfire in front of them as they shared sweet bars, a type of candy he had made from the stem of a yellow plant. They placed them on wooden straws and held them over the fire. He offered her the first one, and she ate it, closing her eyes as she tasted the sweet and salty morsel.
Do you enjoy it?
Oh, yes. Yes, very much so. He placed another one over the fire and ate it. Can I ask a question, Yukai?
You just ask one. What question would you like to ask?
How is it that we speak the same language? You can speak English.
Is it English I am speaking, or is it that you are automatically communicating with us in our language?
Camille never thought of it that way.
After all, You are in our solar system.
So many unexplained things had happened out there that she could not dispute him. You know, Yukai, we always thought Flep was dark and, I didn't know it was this beautiful.
You were in the part up north, further from the sun. That's where you brought that couple whom we had to remove from our planet.
Camille suddenly remembered Cynthia, who had brought her husband to the Planette. His name was Travis, and they were trying to take over the Planette, but they were taken to Flep and exiled and left there. Oh, you found them?
Yes, Camille. They were rogues, criminals. We had to make them leave. We built them a small spaceship and told them to take their leave.
Well, I guess they had no wins with all you men.
No one fights a Flepian and wins. But that guy thought he was tough enough to fight us.
Andid and Oki made their way to the couple and joined them on the ground as they enjoyed the starry night. This almost felt like a double date to Camille. Oki and Andid definitely acted like they were in love. Oki wanted to know where Andid had been all those years. He was so delighted to see her. So, Andid, how did you and Oki meet? Camille asked.
We have known each other for hundreds of years, and yet is my best love.
Oki answered. So what does that mean, Oki? Does it mean that you and Andid are boyfriend and girlfriend?
Not in the sense that you Earth humans mean. You don't understand what real love, justice, mercy, and friendship means. Everything down there is transactional. I don't know what happened to the men on Earth, but we are not the same as those.
Camille was even more confused, but she knew there was a solid connection between her and Yukai. It just felt so right to be in his presence, unlike any man she had ever dated or called herself loving. She felt safe with him, although there wasn't anything around them that was threatening.
Are you ready to leave tomorrow, or are you staying more days?
Oki asked Andid. I will be leaving tomorrow because the students are required to be back in class. That answer made Camille's heart sink. She wanted more time with Yukai. Why couldn't she stay? Because she was a teacher herself. What would she look like staying on the Planet Flep for some romantic interest? How would that look to her students? Meanwhile, the students were having a great time listening to music at a local venue where some of the Flepians played, sang, and entertained. This was customary when the Crelians visited Flep. None of the Flepians did or said anything appropriate to any of the Crelians. Garra, who was with the students, noticed how relaxed everyone was. This was unlike what happens on Earth. It was soon understood that there was a totally different mentality and chemistry. They were what a high-value man really was. They catered to the Crelians from cooking for them, entertaining them, showing them around the planet, and explaining the features of the environment. The students took notes, learning more about that solar system than ever before. Scene 5. Jury selection is complete for Danielle's endangerment trial, Jackie told Ruby. They were sitting on Ruby's back porch when she brought her that news. I see it didn't take long, did it? Ruby said. It usually took a week. But this did not take that long, only 4 days. Look at it like this, Ruby. The sooner this is over, the better. There are a lot of mixed opinions about Danielle's accountability. That did not surprise Ruby either. Danielle had made plenty of friends on the Planette, and Ruby was not concerned about that. She was simply concerned about the fact that Danielle never apologized for some of the things she had done and often challenged the establishment when it came to safety. Other than that, she had no issues with Danielle, although she knew Danielle had issues with her. Ruby received a call. It was Dr. Fatima letting her know they were boarding the ship and headed back to the Planette. You all be safe and keep us posted at the home front. We definitely will, Ruby, Dr. Fatima said. Once Ruby hung up, she continued her conversation with Jackie. I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there and be straight with you, Ruby. I cannot stand Danielle, okay? She's contentious and divisive. And being a black woman, having lived on Earth, I know what a racist looks like, okay? Racism is so ugly. And I prayed it would never reach Creole. But that's a puff daydream, because I always knew somehow we would get those women. We never wanted to discriminate, but we don't want our planet looking like Earth. True. Fortunately, though, Ruby, we haven't had that many cases so far. I never could understand how a woman could hate other women or be racist when they're often the target of racism and misogyny. They go hand in hand, you know. Sure enough, do. My husband was a misogynist. I was glad to get away from him. Ruby, you went through too much back then. I remember when you told me your husband had you committed because you had found the Planette. Stanley was nothing but a miserable drunk. When her husband Stanley died in 1974, Ruby did not attend his funeral. In fact, she would spend decades on the Planette before even visiting Earth. Even when they found innovative ways to travel back and forth, Ruby still preferred to stay in her safe place. But Jackie, do you ever regret not getting married? You were so young when you joined me here. Well, I used to wonder what marriage would have been like, but after all these years and watching what women have gone through, I realize I'm not missing anything. Seeing the bruises women come up with, and what about one of the doctors, one that Fatima and them had to revive? She was almost gone by the time she made it up here. It just makes me sad remembering those incidents. Yeah, but to answer your question, no, I don't regret it, Ruby. Scene 6. Camille was not feeling the fact that they had to return home. When they boarded the spacecraft, O'Key and his crew helped the women get their things on board. They were taking home gifts that the men had given them, especially malvee seeds that were used to grow malvee trees with sweet branches.
Please contact me when you arrive back to Creole, Andiet,
O'Key said. Yukai pat Camille on the cheek, and he told her,
we will keep in touch. I will call you through Unicom.
Okay, Yukai. So, when do you think you'll be able to visit Creole? Camille asked, and she noticed Andia turn and stare at her when she said that. That was not the first time she noticed Andia acting that way.
We will soon. Very soon.
I'm looking forward to it, Yukai. The doors of the spaceship closed and the pilot announced, "Please fasten your seatbelts. 1422 at 1244, and we are taking off. Destination, the planet Creole." The men on the ground waved as the spacecraft lifted from the ground. Soon, they were sailing smoothly through space. Camille released a sigh. Now, was that a waiting to exhale breath that just came out of you, girl? Garra, her sister, asked. Garra, what are you talking about? Sounds like you've been bit by the Flepian bug. Camille knew her sister was referring to Yukai. It's not even like that, G. Camille said, but she felt so tickled inside. Yukai was so attentive, and when he talked to her, he wasn't afraid to look into her eyes. It was like he was not hiding anything. Men on Earth were not like that with all that game plan. She could see Andiyat staring at her from her peripheral. She wondered if Andiyat was jealous of her relationship with Yukai. Well, she shouldn't be, because Andiyat appeared to have her own boyfriend, or whatever they called it in that solar system. Hey, Camille, if you're feeling the guy, why not? One of the pilots said, having heard the entire conversation. See, Garra, it's nothing wrong with the Flepian bug, Camille teased. By then, Andiyat was talking to one of the students. The trip home was way too soon. Camille didn't know why she was feeling like they should get stuck in the universe and have the Flepians come and rescue them. Wouldn't that be romantic? Ruby was at the airfield when they arrived. She always liked welcoming home those who lived there. She hugged the students before talking to the adults. So, did you all have a great time other than it being an educational venture? Oh, yes. And Camille found love on Flep, Garra said before Camille could say anything. I did not. Yukai and I are just friends. Oh, why don't you just tell the truth already, Camille? Her sister teased. They hopped into their vehicle and the driver took them to their homes. Soon, the airfield was quiet and all activity except for a few defenders on duty was gone. Scene 7. The day finally arrived when the 13 randomly picked jurors were to deliberate on Danielle Reed's case regarding endangerment. They had heard the facts brought before them and were instructed to deliver their decision based on the facts only. Women had been picked from all parts of the Planette, the cities, countrysides, beachside, the west, the east, and the north, by Jackie's insistence. Most of the women were not familiar with one another, and that was a plus as far as Ruby was concerned. Jurors were to render their decision in private and not tell another juror what they had decided. That way, it would be done fairly and without coercion of other jurors or under duress and without prejudice or peer pressure. Stands the reason why 13, an odd number, will render a verdict one way or the other without it being a hung jury or anything like that. Jurors started their decision 13 hours ago, and we still have not heard a final decision. The decision will be delivered simultaneously once all of them have cast their decision. This decision will affect whether Danielle Reed will be allowed to remain on Krell or be deported back to Earth, the reporter said. Ruby and Jackie watched their TVs. Ruby was sickened to her stomach. So, Ruby, do you have any idea which way this will swing? I don't know. And I don't know what to think, Jackie, to be honest. I just want this over. And once it's over, I can finally relax. Ruby had been on pins and needles regarding this because Danielle's overall character exhibited signs of recklessness. Her concern at this point would be if there would be other times when Danielle displayed behavior that could endanger someone. People tend to get worse when there is no recompense due to their behavior. Yeah, I know what you mean, Ruby. The reporter suddenly broke news that there was an update. We have just received word from the information officer for the jury that the verdict has just come in. Ruby and Jackie held their breath. The verdict is 7-6 in favor of Danielle Reed, the reporter said. That meant 7 voted against deporting her back to Earth. Ruby and Jackie looked at each other. Ruby knew exactly what Jackie was thinking. Let Kim handle it. She should have let Kim handle her. They were right there on Earth, and Kim could have easily taken care of Danielle, and she would have had no choice but to return to her family. However, the decision was close, which meant it could have easily swung in the other direction if just one person had voted against her. Jackie stood, hugged Ruby. Ruby, are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. You sure? I'm gonna run over to the observation base. You call me if you need to. I certainly will. Love you, girl. And Jackie was gone.
I know I can do what I put my mind and heart to. There's a lot of things that I've done on my own, but I don't always wanna do it alone. It's nice to have someone who can be there for me. I might be a strong girl, but I ain't superhuman.
Ruby settled in her den and turned on some soft music and made herself a cup of shelling tea to try and relax. The day had been long. She had been waiting for the verdict for hours, and it had finally come in. 7-6 in favor of allowing Danielle to remain a resident on Creole. Her doorbell surprised her, and she was even more surprised to see Camille at the door. Hey, come in. What brings you by? I just fixed a pot of tea. Come into the den with me. Camille followed her to the den and accepted a cup of tea. Are you okay, Camille? Ruby had known Camille and her sister for nearly 2 decades when they were in their early 20s. Ruby, I almost feel embarrassed to tell you this, but I really like Yukai from Flep. I mean,
Hey,
I really like him. Why would you feel embarrassed to tell me that? Because I know what the rules are here, and I know how you feel about men. You know what I feel about men who come from Earth. Ruby cut in. Camille was taken aback. Where was this going? I don't put males from other planets in the same category as I would those on Earth. What was their planet like out there on Flep? I've been there, but I have never met them. None of us have until now. Well, it was peaceful, very quiet. They showed us around. They treated us so well. Now ask yourself, do men on Earth customarily do all of those things? Well, I would say no, Miss Ruby, they don't. So, would you not say that the Earth is in chaos? Well, I would actually say that the Earth is in chaos. Wonder why that is. Well, I would say because of men. But But you say Flep is just the opposite. The way they live speaks volumes of who they are. Besides, you're a woman. I would never criticize you for being in love with any man, even an earthly one. That's not what we're about here. We're about not controlling others' minds and hearts. The only thing we say is that if women want to be with men from Earth, it should be done on Earth. They choose where to live, not us. Camille allowed Ruby's words to sink in, and Ruby continued. And let's just say you're a mother, and your child wants to live a certain way that would put the others in the family at risk. What would you tell that child? Well, I would tell them if they want to do their thing at their own place. That's exactly it, Camille. Does this mean that someday Flepians will be allowed here? Ruby paused before speaking. Camille held her breath, hoping Ruby would be in favor of it. Why not? They've been here before. It's apparent they don't have the same chemical makeup as Earthmen. And like Andy had said, they are the brothers to Kralian sisters. Camille was so delighted to hear that from Ruby, of all people. She thanked her and left before Ruby changed her mind. Scene 8. Camille made it home just in time. Her computer was notifying her that someone was calling. She opened her laptop and Yukai's image appeared on the screen, delighting her and making her nervous at the same time. Yukai! Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just left Ruby Seaver's house.
Andy told me about Ruby. Says she's very kind.
Yes, she is. She is. So, how are things on Flep since we left?
About the same. We're building a new ship. We are coming out there soon.
Oh, really? That's exciting.
Yes. And we will see each other again, and I will bring Marvy for us to feast on.
Oh, that sounds good and delicious. So, do you know where you would be staying or if you would be staying overnight? When they visited Flep, the men had a girls' quarters for them to live, and they had built it long ago. They were such gentlemen.
Hopefully at your base somewhere.
So how many of you will be coming?
It will be me, Oki, Kiet, and Eke.
Well, I'm sure there's an empty house somewhere.
I hope it will be near you, Camille.
She smiled. Yeah, I hope it will be near me too.
Beautiful one, I have to be going, but I wanted to reach out to you before I head to my mission.
Thank you so much for calling me, Yukai.
You are welcome, beautiful one.
Before he hung up, red and pink hearts floated on the screen.
How come I feel lost and out of place? There's an empty space that's hard to feel. I exist but still, everything's too far. Little things are so hard for me to obtain, so I hide my shame. But as long as I'm here, there's a chance. But as long
Once she hung up, she released a sigh and stared out the back window. Images of them sitting near the small pond in the evening stayed on her mind. He was so kind. She'd never had a man treat her that way before. Her doorbell rang. She hurried to the door, and when she opened it, there was Andiette. Those large eyes full of intensity nearly frightened her. She wondered what Andiette wanted. Andiette, what brings you by? There are some things you need to understand. Things like what, Andiette?